Heyo, what's up and welcome. I'm the one and only West Coast King, and welcome back to Major League 90, where we are talking Major League Soccer, and the international break is now over and done with. We're going to get back to a full slate of MLS games this coming weekend, and with that, I kind of want to take a look at which teams are going to benefit the most from this past international break as far as players playing themselves into some pretty good form, and which teams are going to suffer a little bit because they lost some players to injury. So the international break always plays, just wreaks havoc sometimes on the MLS. So let's take a look at the effects this past one had for some teams. So starting off with the teams that I think are going to come out on the better side of this thing, number one has to be the Sounders. I mentioned it last episode. Every time Clint Dempsey goes away to international duty and puts on the stars and stripes, he becomes just a man possessed, and he brings that back to him when he comes back, or brings that back with him when he comes back to Seattle, and he has at least a couple of really good games. Usually can stretch that out for about a month or so, and he just plays absolutely insane. And I don't know why that is, whether it's just he needs to kind of refocus. When he goes to the national team, he's just completely focused and wants to play out of his mind. Sometimes I think he does lose a little bit of focus when he's with Seattle, gets a little bit bored at times, a little bit lackadaisical, but every time he goes away for a national duty, he comes back and he is absolutely insane. So definitely I think the Sounders came out on top of this one. And the other team I think is going to benefit from this is the Portland Timbers. They kind of missed Darlington Nagbe. They had to play a game during the international break, and Portland did go to Columbus and lose, and they were without Darlington Nagbe for that. But Darlington Nagbe, in the two games he played for the United States, and he played in both of their international games, was very good. I thought he was very good against Honduras. Kind of lost in the mix a little bit as far as praise goes, with Clint Dempsey nabbing a hat trick and Christian Pulisic playing out of his mind. But everyone played well against Honduras, including Darlington Nagbe. And he also got the start against Panama as well. And he displayed some traits that oftentimes you don't associate with Darlington Nagbe, and maybe are a bit of a knock on his game. Primarily defense. He doesn't track back very well, or if at all. But he did that very well, I thought, against Panama, and it was something that kind of surprised me. If he can incorporate that into his game a little bit more, we might be seeing the next step in the evolution of Darlington Nagbe. That Darlington Nagbe that was so close to moving to Celtic just, 12 months ago. If he adds that to his game and adds a couple more pieces, maybe not, you never know. Maybe he will be destined for European glory. And now for the teams that didn't fare so well. Injuries. Ooh. Injuries tagged a couple of teams, and they are going to be in a little bit of trouble, at least for the near future. Number one, and this is the shortest injury, but still a major one, Ignacio Piatti for Montreal. Set to miss, I think, 2 to 4 weeks, I think. That's not good. Not when you lose your best player in a league that's dominated by designated players. When you lose your best designated player, that's always going to be a problem. And I don't know how Montreal is going to do without him. The ready replacement for him, I think, would be Johan Venegas, but again, they sold him in the offseason. So, and maybe not. Venegas can play out wide. Maybe he's a striker. Minnesota uses him kind of every position, but I think that would have been a good player to have in your team to replace him. Maybe a Harry Shipp as well, but again, they sold him in the offseason. So, I don't know what's going to happen with Montreal without Piatti, but I think they might be in store for a bit of a bad run here. The second team that's going to be hurting, and this one's a long-term injury, Sebastian Lletget for LA Galaxy. Now, the Galaxy themselves, honestly, I don't know what to make of them this season. So I don't know if they're going to be missing him or if they have somebody that can replace it. I don't know. I don't even know if they're going to be a good team this season. Honestly, I don't. But for the player himself, Sebastian Lletget, I mean, his stock for the United States national team was skyrocketing. He played so incredibly well for like the first 15 minutes he was on the field against Honduras for the United States, and then he got hurt, and it's a bad one. It's an injury that requires surgery. He's going to be out for probably the rest of the season. Maybe he might come back at the very end. It looks like 5 to 6 months, it said, was going to be his injury. That sucks. And again, I don't know how that's going to impact the LA Galaxy, but for the player himself, for a player that was just, his stock was just soaring, that sucks. I hate to see players go down with injury like that. That's absolutely devastating for him, but I'm sure he'll come back. I don't think it's going to be something that's going to hamper him for the rest of his career. So hopefully he comes back stronger and better than ever. And the third team that really took a hit in this last international break, Atlanta United, the surprise team of the season, without a doubt so far. They lost their striker, Josef Martinez, the top scorer in the league this year, with 5 goals in 3 games, and technically 5 goals in just the last 2 games. He's going to be set to miss probably the next 2 months with a quad injury, I think it was. That sucks, but the Atlanta United is not without replacements here. I mean, I've already talked about Miguel Almiron, how good he's been this season. Hector Villalba is just getting started, got his first goal for the team last week. They also signed a veteran striker before the season started, their first ever signing for that team as an MLS club, in Kenwyne Jones. And Jones actually played both matches of the international duty with Trinidad and Tobago, so he's actually pretty fit right now, and he'll plug into that Atlanta United team, a good veteran striker. So it's going to be interesting to see how Atlanta United copes without the dynamic attacking of Josef Martinez, but they do have a pretty good replacement in Kenwyne Jones, so I'm not sure how much of an impact that's going to make, but let's just say, as a Seattle fan, I'm happy I'm not going to have to see Josef Martinez tomorrow. Actually, when this comes out, it'll be today, against Seattle at CenturyLink Field, as Atlanta's up in Seattle. So I'm kind of happy about that. Again, I don't like seeing players go down with injury, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit relieved. Now, international stuff aside, a couple of other stories have broke this past week in the MLS. Well, sort of this past week. The first one I haven't even talked about in Major League 90, though I've had 2 opportunities and just not talked about it either time, is Bastian Schweinsteiger signing officially for the Chicago Fire. Probably will make his debut, I think, this weekend for them. I hope. I'm not actually sure about that. I think that he is anyway, but I'm excited to see Schweinsteiger. I think there's 2 types of designated players that fit that mold that Schweinsteiger fits into, that come into the MLS. Those that are slightly older and are really just here to play out the rest of their careers, have nothing to prove, feel like they've done everything they have to do, that they've had to do in their career, and they end up just kind of not really doing much in the MLS. And I would have to put, as much as I loved him at Liverpool, I'd have to put Steven Gerrard in that category. I don't think he ever really wanted to leave Liverpool. His heart was always in England. Never, in my opinion, should he have made the jump to the MLS. He just didn't contribute to that LA Galaxy the way they needed a designated player to contribute. So, and I honestly, I don't think Bastian Schweinsteiger fits into that mold. With the way his tenure ended at Manchester United, being officially kicked out of the team and having to train with the youth squad by Jose Mourinho, he fits into the second group of designated players, and that is players with a chip on their shoulder and something to prove, a la Giovinco or Didier Drogba. They came into the league and immediately made an impact and lit things up. Now, Schweiny's not a striker, so I don't think he's going to get huge goal totals, despite him being still, in my opinion, a world-class player. But I think he certainly helps that team, that Chicago Fire team. He helps any team. I mean, hell, he's going to be one of the best midfielders in the league. I am absolutely just so excited to see Schweinsteiger play for the Chicago Fire, and in the MLS in general. I'm really happy that he made that move. The other move that actually, as of recording this, just went down like 30 minutes ago, and that is Kakuta Mane being sold, or technically traded per MLS rules, to Columbus Crew for Tony Tchani, a midfielder. I actually like this move for both teams. I thought Columbus has shown signs. I said that they looked like one of the worst teams in the East a couple weeks ago, but recently they've shown signs that they could be potentially a playoff team. And adding a player like Kakuta Mane, a dynamic attacker when healthy, that's the only thing with Kakuta Mane. Every time he shows these glimpses of him potentially being a really, really good star player maybe, he gets hurt. So if he can stay healthy, that's a huge, huge addition for the Columbus Crew. On the other side, Vancouver, they've been lacking for midfield help. I mean, they needed somebody, and I think Tony Tchani fits that role really nicely. He can kind of play either as a number 6, kind of a defensive midfielder, a number 8, which is kind of like the box-to-box type of a guy, maybe a number 10 at times, but I don't think that's his best position as an attacking midfielder. But anywhere he plays, I think he's going to help Vancouver. A good, solid, veteran player who's been around in the MLS for quite some time, and a quality player at that. I really like that addition for Vancouver. So I like the addition for both teams. I think that makes both teams stronger. So that's pretty much all I've got to talk about today. Rather short episode, but I'm looking forward to getting back into the regular MLS schedule this weekend. Some really, really good matches, actually. We've got Seattle and Atlanta, like I said, a little bit later on today. You know I'm going to be watching that one. Possibly Schweinsteiger's debut on Saturday with Chicago taking on Montreal. And then on Sunday, Portland and New England. I think we're going to get some answers to a couple of questions there. Is Portland as good as we think they are? They are playing at home. And is New England possibly a playoff team? They played very well last time out, again, against Minnesota, so, you know, asterisk by that one. But if they go on the road and have a good performance, maybe pull a point away from Portland, I might be willing to put some faith in New England. So we'll see how that one goes. But that is going to be it for this one. If you did enjoy it, make sure to let me know by leaving a like below. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you when we come back for some more Major League 90. See ya.